The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly before the Imperial survey vessel, Stellar Dawn, as it emerged from hyperspace in Sector 717. Stars twinkled against the black canvas, a sight Captain Hansu Park had grown accustomed to over his 15 years of service. This was supposed to be another routine survey mission. Document any asteroids, catalog space anomalies, and move on to the next sector. Hansu rubbed his tired eyes as he reviewed the preliminary scans. Something wasn't right. The readings showed massive energy signatures that shouldn't exist in an uninhabited sector. He blinked hard, wondering if exhaustion was making him see things. Ji-woo, can you verify these readings? He called out to his first officer. First Officer Ji-woo Kim looked up from her station, her face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the holographic displays. She was young but extremely capable, having graduated top of her class at the Imperial Academy. Her fingers moved swiftly across the controls as she ran the scans again. Running second scan now, Captain, she replied professionally. Her eyes widened as the results came in. Sir, these readings, they're real. And they're massive. Hansu leaned forward in his command chair. Show me. The main view screen lit up with a detailed energy map of the sector. Where there should have been nothing but empty space, countless points of light blazed like a galaxy of artificial stars. The energy signatures formed clear patterns, orbital stations, defense platforms, and what appeared to be massive shipyards. Impossible, Hansu whispered. Run it again. Je-woo ran the scans a third time, then a fourth. Each result was identical. Sir, these readings are consistent. There's an advanced civilization here. The crew worked in stunned silence as they moved closer to the source of the readings. Soon, a beautiful blue-green planet came into view. It was clearly inhabited, with visible signs of technological advancement that rivaled or even surpassed Imperial standards. Orbital rings circled the planet like halos, while ships of unfamiliar design moved in choreographed patterns through space. Check the Imperial database, Hansu ordered. There must be some record of this civilization. Je-woo's fingers flew across her console. Nothing, sir. According to all Imperial records, this sector is completely empty. There's not even a mention of the planet. Hansu felt a chill run down his spine. This was impossible. The Empire had mapped every sector of known space. Their records went back thousands of years. How could they have missed something this significant? Sir, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Hansu straightened his uniform. First contact protocols were clear, but this situation was unprecedented. Put it through. The view screen changed to show a man in elegant but unfamiliar clothing. He appeared to be of the same species as Hansu's people, which was another shock. The man's smile was warm but knowing, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Greetings, Captain Park of the Stellar Dawn, the man said smoothly. I am Director Song-min Lee, Earth's representative for extraterrestrial affairs. We've been expecting you. Hansu's mouth went dry. They knew his name. They knew his ship. How? How do you know who we are? Song-min's smile widened slightly. We know many things, Captain. We've been watching the Empire for a very long time. Perhaps you'd like to dock at our station. We have much to discuss. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. None of their training had prepared them for this. An advanced civilization that wasn't in any Imperial record, yet somehow knew them. We would be honored, Hansu managed to reply, trying to maintain his composure. Please provide docking coordinates. As the coordinates appeared on their screens, Hansu noticed something else extraordinary. The defense platforms they had detected earlier were far more numerous than first thought, and their design was unlike anything in Imperial records. If these people had wanted to destroy the Stellar Dawn, they could have done so the moment the ship entered the sector. As they approached the massive space station, Hansu couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change the Empire forever. This wasn't just first contact. This was something much bigger. These people, whoever they were, had managed to hide an entire civilization from the Empire's watchful eyes. The docking procedure went smoothly, almost too smoothly, as if the station's systems were perfectly compatible with their ship. As Han Su prepared to meet their hosts, Jiwu approached him. "Sir," she said quietly, "I've been analyzing their technology from what little we can scan. If these readings are correct, they're centuries ahead of us." Han Su nodded grimly. "And they've been watching us all this time." He straightened his uniform one last time and headed for the airlock. Whatever waited on the other side would surely shake the Empire to its foundations. The storm of questions in his mind grew with each step. Who were these people? How had they remained hidden for so long? And most importantly, why had they chosen now to reveal themselves? As the airlock cycled, Han Su realized that he and his crew weren't making first contact. They were being welcomed into a reunion that had been centuries in the making. The doors opened, and history held its breath. The soft glow of ancient data crystals illuminated Admiral Yoon Icho's face as she sat in her private research chamber within the Imperial Historical Archives. For 3 days straight, she had barely left this room, driven by a discovery that had stolen her sleep and peace of mind. The data before her was impossible, yet the evidence was undeniable. Someone had altered the Empire's historical records. Not just recent records, but centuries' worth of data had been systematically changed, deleting all traces of an entire civilization. The discoveries began when she noticed tiny inconsistencies in the dating systems of older records, microsecond variations that shouldn't have existed in original documents. Yoon, he rubbed her tired eyes, the weight of her discovery pressing down on her shoulders. As head archivist of the Empire's most sacred historical repository, she had access to the oldest surviving records of their civilization. And now she had proof that these records had been tampered with on a massive scale. Her secure communication device chimed softly. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Dr. Jinna Kang, the Earth historian who had reached out to her shortly after the Stellar Dawn's historic first contact. Initially skeptical of Jinna's claims, Yoon-hee now found herself drowning in evidence that supported them. "Admiral Cho," Jinna's voice was gentle but firm. "I have something to show you, something that will explain everything." Yoon-hee straightened in her chair. "I'm listening." "Not over communications," Jinna replied. "This needs to be seen in person. I can be at your location in 30 minutes. The Admiral's eyes widened. "You're on the Imperial capital." Jinna's smile held secrets. "We've always been closer than you thought." True to her word, exactly 30 minutes later, Jinna walked into Yoon-hee's research chamber. She carried an ancient-looking device, smaller than her palm. Without ceremony, she placed it on the desk between them. "This," Jinna said, "is humanity's first faster-than-light drive, created over 1,000 years ago. Long before your empire existed." The device activated, projecting a 3-dimensional recording that filled the room. Yoon-hee watched in amazement as scenes from humanity's early space age played out around them. She saw the first crewed rockets, the establishment of lunar bases, the terraforming of Mars, and finally, the development of faster-than-light travel. "But this is impossible," Yoon-hee whispered. "These achievements predate our empire's founding by centuries." Jinna nodded. "Your ancestors feared us," she explained, manipulating the projection to show more recent events. "Humanity's rate of advancement terrified them. While other species took millennia to achieve spaceflight, we did it in decades. While others struggled with genetic engineering, we mastered it. We moved too fast, learned too quickly, adapted too well." The projection changed to show a massive fleet of warships, ancient imperial vessels, approaching Earth. Yoon-hee recognized the design from historical records of the Empire's founding era. "They tried to destroy us," Jinna continued, her voice steady, but carrying old pain. "Your founders attempted to eliminate what they saw as a threat to their future dominion. They failed." The projection showed the Imperial fleet's weapons firing upon Earth, and their weapons fire simply disappearing before reaching the planet. Not exploding, not being blocked, just ceasing to exist. We had already surpassed them, Jin A explained. But rather than retaliate, we made a choice. We chose to watch and wait. We erased ourselves from their records, using technology they couldn't detect. We became myths, then legends, then nothing at all. Yumi sat back, her mind struggling to process the implications. But why reveal yourselves now? Jin A's expression softened. Because your empire is ready. You've evolved beyond the fears and prejudices of your founders. You've become something better than they intended. She manipulated the device again, and new images filled the room. Human achievements that defied imperial understanding. Cities that floated in the sky, ships that moved without engines, worlds transformed into gardens through technology that seemed like magic. We've spent centuries helping from the shadows, Jin A said, preventing wars, guiding development, protecting younger species. But now it's time for openness, partnership, a new age for both our peoples. Yoon, he stood slowly, walking through the holographic displays of human history. The Empire's Council will need proof of all this. Look at your terminal, Jin A suggested. Yoon, he turned to her computer and gasped. The tampering she had detected in the historical records was reversing itself. Century by century, the true history was restoring itself, filling in the gaps with crystal-clear records of humanity's existence and achievements. How long have you had access to our systems? Yoon, he asked, already knowing she might not like the answer. Jin A's response was gentle but firm. We never lost it. Every system, every network, every database. We've been there all along, not to control or dominate, but to protect and guide. As the truth continued to unfold on her screens, Yoon, he realized that the empire she had served her entire life was about to change forever. The foundations of their society, their understanding of their own history, would never be the same. There will be those who resist this truth, she said quietly. Jin A nodded. There always are. But the truth has a way of emerging, regardless of how long it's hidden. All we can do is help guide that emergence toward understanding rather than fear. Together, they watched as the restored records continued to fill the imperial databases, bringing light to centuries of darkness and hope for a future neither of their peoples could have imagined alone. Minister Taiwan Choi stood at the observation window of the transport vessel, watching Earth grow larger in his view. Despite his years of diplomatic experience, his hands were sweaty and his heart raced. Behind him, the other members of the imperial delegation whispered among themselves, their anxiety palpable in the recycled air of the ship. Earth's defense platforms parted like a curtain, allowing their ship passage. Unlike imperial designs, these stations seemed to shift and flow, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. No visible weapons, yet Taiwan knew they could probably destroy his ship in ways he couldn't even imagine. Minister, his aide whispered, they're asking us to prepare for landing. The landing itself was so smooth that Taiwan didn't realize they had touched down until the doors opened. They stepped out into Earth's central command, a structure that defied imperial architectural understanding. The walls seemed alive, shifting colors responding to the movements of people walking past. Commander Sunmay Park waited for them at the entrance. She wore a simple white uniform with no visible rank insignia, yet carried herself with quiet authority. Her smile was genuine as she bowed slightly to the delegation. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice warm and confident. "We have much to show you." The delegation followed her through corridors that seemed to adjust their size and shape to accommodate the group comfortably. Other humans passed by, nodding respectfully but showing no surprise at the presence of imperial officials. "Your facility is remarkable," Taiwan managed to say. Sunmi's eyes twinkled. This is just the beginning. Please, follow me to the operations center." They entered a vast circular chamber that took Taiwan's breath away. The entire room was a three-dimensional display of the galaxy, with stars and planets floating around them in perfect detail. Points of light pulsed throughout the display, each representing something that made Taiwan's mind spin with implications. What you're seeing, Sun Mai explained, is our current deployment throughout known space. Each light represents a human presence, colonies, observation posts, research stations, and our agents. Taiwan struggled to find his voice. But many of these sectors are uninhabitable. The Empire has tried to establish outposts in these regions for centuries without success. Sun Mai waved her hand, and the display zoomed in on one such sector. A hidden colony appeared, built into an asteroid field that Imperial ships couldn't navigate. We learned to adapt to environments you considered impossible. We built our homes in the spaces between spaces. The display shifted again, showing a massive space station cloaked within a nebula the Empire used for navigation. This facility has been monitoring Imperial trade routes for 300 years. We've prevented 17 major pirate attacks, redirected 2 potential war fleets, and provided emergency assistance to 32 Imperial ships in distress. None of them ever knew we were there. Taiwan's aide gasped. The miracle of the Crimson Nebula. That was you. Sun Mai nodded. An Imperial passenger liner with 2,000 souls aboard. Their engines were failing, and they were drifting into a radiation storm. We couldn't reveal ourselves, so we created a mysterious gravitational eddy that pulled them to safety. The display changed again, showing hundreds of similar incidents throughout Imperial history. Disasters averted, conflicts prevented, civilizations protected, all through subtle intervention that no one had noticed. But why? Taiwan asked. Why hide? With your technology, you could have conquered you. Sun Mai finished gently. That was never our goal. We chose peace over confrontation. Violence is easy, Minister Choi. Peace, true peace, requires patience, understanding, and sometimes silence. She moved through the display, pointing out more hidden installations. We built this network not to control or dominate, but to protect. Every developing civilization deserves the chance to grow without interference. Even the Empire, despite its early attempts to destroy us. The display zoomed out, showing the full scope of human influence. It was staggering. There wasn't a sector of known space without some form of human presence. Your sensors, one of the delegation members spoke up. They must be incredibly advanced to maintain this level of surveillance. Sun Mai's expression became serious. What you call sensors, we call understanding. We learn to see space differently. Your scientists search for what they expect to find. We learn to look for what we never imagined could exist. She brought up another display, showing human ships moving through space in ways that made Taiwan's eyes hurt. We don't just observe space. We've learned to work with it. Your ships push through space. Ours dance with it. As the delegation watched in amazement, Sun Mai continued revealing the extent of human achievement and influence. Each revelation seemed more incredible than the last, yet was supported by undeniable evidence. We're showing you this, she explained, because we believe it's time for our civilizations to work together openly. The galaxy is changing. New challenges are coming that neither of us should face alone. Taiwan found himself nodding. The Empire's foundations might be shaken by these revelations, but the potential for what they could achieve together was worth any temporary disruption. Commander Park, he said formally, I believe we have much to learn from each other. Sun Mai's smile returned. That, Minister Choi, is exactly why we chose this moment to reveal ourselves. Your willingness to learn, to grow, tells us the Empire is ready for the truth. The galaxy spun around them, filled with points of light that represented centuries of silent watching, protecting, and waiting. The time for silence was ending, and a new era of cooperation was about to begin. The Imperial Council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from 1,000 worlds shouted over each other. Senior Counselor Min-Ho Kwon stood at the center of the storm, watching his carefully maintained order crumble around him. The massive holographic displays showed scenes of unrest from across the Empire, crowds gathering in streets, local governments making declarations of support for Earth, and military vessels breaking formation. This is outrageous. War Minister Dae Jung-ryu's voice boomed across the chamber. He slammed his fist on the podium, his face red with anger. These humans have infiltrated every aspect of our society. They are a threat that must be eliminated immediately. Min-ho watched as more council members took sides. The chamber had literally divided itself, with pro-human supporters gathering on one side and those demanding military action on the other. Centuries of imperial unity were unraveling in a matter of hours. "Ministers, please," Min-ho called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We must approach this situation with reason, not fear." Reason. Dae Jung spat the word. "They have spied on us for centuries. They have hidden colonies in our territory. I have already ordered our fleet to." A sudden hush fell over the chamber as every light, every display, every piece of technology simultaneously went dark. For 3 heartbeats, the Empire's seat of power sat in total darkness. Then, just as suddenly, everything reactivated. Ambassador Hai-jin Nam stood in the center of the chamber, though no one had seen her enter. Her simple white uniform stood out sharply against the ornate imperial decorations. She smiled gently at the assembled council. "You were saying, Minister Ryu." Her voice was soft, but carried to every corner of the room. "Please, tell us about the fleet you ordered to attack Earth." Dae Jung's communication device chirped. He checked it, his face growing pale. "Impossible. All weapons systems, every ship, have been temporarily deactivated." Hai-jin finished for him. "They will be restored momentarily. Consider it a gentle reminder of what we could have done at any point in the last few centuries, but chose not to." Min-ho watched the color drain from Dae Jung's face as reports flooded in from across Imperial space. Every weapon, from the smallest personal blaster to the largest dreadnought cannon, had been simultaneously disabled and reactivated. The demonstration of power was breathtaking in its scope and precision. "My fellow council members," Hai-jin addressed the chamber, "humanity has watched over this galaxy for centuries. We have prevented wars, saved lives, and protected developing civilizations, including yours, from threats you never knew existed. We did this not out of a desire for power, but out of a commitment to peace." The chamber's displays came alive with images. Imperial ships saved from destruction, colonies protected from natural disasters, conflicts prevented through subtle intervention. Each incident had been documented, though the Empire had never known the true source of their salvation. "But we are not your overlords," Hai-jin continued. "We don't want to rule you or control you. We want to work with you, openly and honestly, as equals." A counselor from the outer regions stood up. "How can we be equals when you possess such power over us?" Hai-jin's response was immediate. "Having power and choosing not to use it is the truest test of civilization. We could have conquered the Empire 100 times over. Instead, we protected it. We helped it grow. We watched over your children as they took their first steps among the stars." Min-ho stepped forward, his mind racing with possibilities. "Ambassador Nam, what exactly are you proposing?" "Partnership," she replied simply. "A new era of cooperation. Your empire has grown beyond its founders' fears. You're ready to join us in protecting this galaxy, in helping younger civilizations grow, in facing challenges that neither of us should face alone." The chamber had grown quiet, the earlier chaos replaced by thoughtful silence. Min-ho could see the shift in faces around him as fear gave way to understanding. "There will be changes," Hai-jin acknowledged. "But change brings opportunity. Think of what we could achieve together, openly and honestly, instead of humans working from the shadows." Another display activated, showing a map of known space with thousands of points of light, human installations, colonies, and observation posts that had been hidden from Imperial sensors. The scope of human presence was staggering, yet they had never once used it for conquest. "The choice is yours," Hai-jin said softly. "We can move forward together, or we can maintain our separation. But know this, we will continue to protect this galaxy, with or without your cooperation. We would simply prefer to do it together." Minho looked around the chamber, seeing the decision in his fellow council members' eyes. The demonstration of power had been frightening, yes, but it had also shown remarkable restraint. Any civilization capable of such control over imperial technology could have destroyed them at any time. Instead, they had chosen to protect and guide. "I move," Minho said clearly, "that we establish a formal diplomatic relationship with Earth and begin discussions for future cooperation." The vote that followed wasn't even close. Even Daejung, after his initial outburst, voted in favor. The crisis wasn't over. There would be resistance, fear, and confusion throughout the empire for some time. But the path forward was clear. As the council session ended, Minho approached Ambassador Nam. "That demonstration," he said quietly, "it was meant to prevent war, wasn't it?" Hai-Jin smiled. "Sometimes the best way to prevent violence is to show its futility. We didn't disable your weapons to threaten you, but to show you that conflict between us would serve no purpose." Minho nodded, understanding finally settling in. The Empire wasn't facing a crisis, it was facing an opportunity. And for the first time in his political career, he looked forward to the chaos that change would bring. Information specialist Jae-Young-Oh stared at her screen in disbelief as ancient data fragments assembled themselves into a coherent picture. Her hands trembled as she decoded another encrypted file from the Empire's earliest days. The truth she was uncovering would shake the foundations of everything her people believed about their history. The secure chamber in the Imperial Archives was silent except for the soft hum of quantum processors piecing together corrupted data. She had been working for weeks, ever since strange anomalies had appeared in the Empire's oldest records. What started as simple data recovery had turned into something far more sinister. "Computer, verify this sequence again," she whispered, her voice hoarse from hours of work. The holographic display flickered, showing fragments of a military command log from the Empire's founding era. The date stamp made her blood run cold. It was from 50 years before the Empire's officially recorded founding. Her communication device chimed softly. "Specialist O," a voice said, "the Council is waiting." Jae-Young gathered her data crystals with shaking hands. The evidence was undeniable now. The Empire's entire origin story had been built on a lie that covered up an attempted genocide. The council chamber was packed when she arrived. Representatives from every major world in the Empire sat in tense silence as she connected her data crystals to the central display system. Earth's defense chief, Ha-Jun Park, stood quietly to one side, his presence adding weight to what she was about to reveal. "Honorable Council," Jae-Young began, her voice steadier than she felt. "What I'm about to show you was recovered from our oldest data archives. These records were deliberately fragmented and hidden, but they tell a story that changes everything we thought we knew about our history." The chamber's displays came to life, showing ancient military logs, command decisions, and battle plans. The dates preceded the Empire's official founding by decades. "Our founders," she continued, "discovered Earth long before the Empire was officially established. They found a young civilization advancing at an unprecedented rate. While other species took thousands of years to develop spaceflight, humans did it in decades. Their rate of technological progress terrified our ancestors." She brought up more records, surveillance reports detailing humanity's rapid advancement, and the growing fear among those who would become the Empire's founders. "They saw humanity as a threat," Jae-Young said quietly. "Not because of any hostile actions, but because humans learned too quickly, adapted too well, advanced too fast. Our founders feared that humanity would surpass them before they could establish their dominion over the galaxy." The next series of images made several council members gasp. They showed massive fleet movements, weapon preparations, and finally, a coordinated attack on Earth. The date stamp showed it happened exactly 50 years before the Empire's officially recorded founding. Ajun Park stepped forward then, his presence commanding attention. "We remember that day," he said, his voice carrying no hint of anger, only certainty. "Your founders launched an attack designed to destroy our civilization. They expected to find a primitive world barely reaching for the stars. Instead, they found we had already surpassed their understanding." The displays showed the attack from humanity's perspective. The Imperial weapons, considered overwhelming force at the time, simply ceased to function as they approached Earth. Entire fleets found themselves powerless, their most advanced technology rendered useless by defenses they couldn't even detect. "We could have retaliated," Hejun continued. "We could have destroyed your fleets, hunted down your founders, prevented the Empire from ever forming. Instead, we chose a different path." More images appeared, humans quietly helping younger civilizations, preventing natural disasters, guiding development from the shadows. While the Empire's founders tried to erase all record of their failed attack, humanity had used the experience to become something greater. "We turned your betrayal into our strength," Hejun explained, his words echoing in the silent chamber. "While you forgot us, we remembered everything. We watched, we learned, and most importantly, we protected, even those who had tried to destroy us." Jae Young brought up her final pieces of evidence, records showing how the Empire's founders had systematically erased all mention of Earth and humanity from official records. They had rewritten history, hiding their shame behind a carefully constructed lie about the Empire's origins. "But why reveal this now?" one council member asked. "Why not just let the past remain buried?" Hejun's expression softened slightly. "Because your empire has grown beyond its founders' fears. You've become something better than they intended. It's time for truth, time for healing, time for us to work together openly." The council chamber erupted in discussion, but it wasn't the angry chaos from before. There was shame there, yes, but also understanding. The Empire's greatest shame had led to humanity's greatest triumph, choosing protection over revenge, guidance over dominion. "We don't share this truth to hurt you," Hejun said into the quieting chamber. "We share it because true partnership must be built on honesty. Your founders tried to destroy us because they feared what humanity might become. Look around you. Everything they feared has come to pass. Yet instead of conquering you, we protected you. Instead of domination, we chose cooperation." Jae-yun watched as understanding dawned on the council members' faces. The Empire hadn't just discovered humanity hiding in forgotten space. They had rediscovered protectors who had been watching over them all along. As the implications settled over the chamber, Jae-young realized that this revelation wouldn't destroy the Empire, as she had feared. Instead, it would transform it into something greater, a civilization ready to face its past and build a better future alongside the very people it had once tried to destroy. The truth of the ancient betrayal had finally emerged, but with it came the promise of redemption through partnership with those who had chosen protection over revenge. Sejong Kang watched from the diplomatic chambers as another imperial world declared its independence. The holographic displays showed spreading unrest across a dozen star systems. Some worlds rushed to ally with Earth, while others called for isolation and a return to traditional imperial values. The Empire was splitting apart at its seams. "Ambassador Kang," her aide whispered, "Commander Do-hyun Lee's fleet has detected movement in the outer system." Sejong nodded, unsurprised. She had been expecting this. Admiral Chen's loyalist fleet had been gathering strength for days, drawing in ships from hardline imperial worlds. They thought they could strike at Earth before the situation stabilized. "Let them come," she said quietly. "Sometimes people need to see to understand." In the command center of the Imperial Dreadnought, Eternal Dawn, Commander Do-hyun Lee struggled with his conscience. His orders were to observe and report on Admiral Chen's fleet movements, but what he was watching felt like history repeating itself. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "the rebel fleet is charging weapons. They're on an attack vector toward Earth." Do-hyun watched as over 300 Imperial warships moved into attack formation. It was the largest fleet gathering since the Empire's golden age. Admiral Chen's voice boomed over the command channel. For the glory of the true Empire, fire at will. What happened next would be talked about for generations. As thousands of energy weapons fired simultaneously at Earth, the space between the fleet and the planet seemed to ripple. The massive barrage of destructive energy simply vanished. In its place, the void lit up with dancing lights, as if the weapon's fire had been transformed into a cosmic art display. Impossible, Du Hyun whispered, but he knew he was watching the truth unfold. Back in the diplomatic chambers, Se-jung received a priority communication. The face that appeared on her screen belonged to one of Earth's many hidden peacekeepers, currently embedded in a mid-rim trading hub. Ambassador, we're detecting increased military activity in sectors 7 through 12. Local defense forces are mobilizing. Se-jung's response was calm but firm. Reveal yourselves. It's time they understood who has been protecting them all these years. Across Imperial space, something remarkable began to happen. Private security contractors, local defense advisors, and independent peacekeepers suddenly dropped their covers. Human operatives who had spent decades protecting Imperial worlds while disguised as locals stepped forward to reveal their true identities. On the trading hub of New Valentia, a simple dock worker named Seret turned out to be a human peacekeeper who had prevented 3 civil wars through careful manipulation of local politics. On the mining world of Karis, the head of station security revealed that his entire team consisted of human operators who had been protecting the planet's inhabitants from pirate raids for 40 years. The revelation spread like wildfire through the Imperial networks. Worlds that had been considering rebellion suddenly found themselves facing a choice. The humans they had feared hadn't been plotting conquest. They had been quietly protecting Imperial citizens all along. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Chen's fleet hung motionless, their weapons systems completely inert. A single communication from Earth's Defense Command reached every ship simultaneously. Your weapons have not been destroyed, a calm voice announced. They have been temporarily repurposed. Please enjoy the light show while we talk. The void between the fleet and Earth continued to dance with colors, the transformed weapon energy creating patterns of breathtaking beauty. Du Hyun Lee watched from his command deck, understanding finally settling in his mind. Earth's power wasn't just in their technology, it was in their restraint. Se-jung took advantage of the moment to address the Empire's worlds directly. Her holographic image appeared in government chambers across Imperial space. For centuries, we have worked in shadow to protect you, she began. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as guardians. Today, Admiral Chen's fleet demonstrated why we chose to remain hidden. Like your founders before him, he chose violence out of fear. And like before, we chose to respond with peace. She gestured to the still ongoing light show visible from countless worlds. We could have destroyed those ships. Instead, we transformed their attack into something beautiful. This is who we are. This is who we have always been. The impact was immediate. Worlds that had been preparing for war stood down their forces. The wave of succession declarations slowed, then stopped. The Empire wasn't healing. It was transforming. Do Hyun Lee made his decision. He opened a channel to Earth's Defense Command. This is Commander Lee of the Eternal Dawn. We request permission to approach and discuss terms for cooperation. Se-jung smiled as the reports flooded in. Across the Empire, humans who had lived and worked in secret for generations were being welcomed by the very people they had protected. The balance of power wasn't shifting. It was finding its natural state. The Empire doesn't need to fracture, she announced to the watching worlds. It needs to grow, to evolve, to become something greater than its founders ever imagined. Not through force, but through understanding. Not through fear, but through cooperation. As the light show finally faded, leaving Admiral Chen's fleet powerless but unharmed, a new era began to take shape. The Empire wasn't dying. It was being reborn, guided by those who had chosen to protect rather than destroy. to unite rather than divide. The balance of power had finally found its equilibrium, not through war, but through the revelation of a peace that had been there all along. The grand ceremonial hall of the Imperial Palace shimmered with lights as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for the historic occasion. Joint Council Leader Ji-Hoo Kim stood beside Earth's principal negotiator Soo-Min Choi, both watching as delegates took their places in the newly designed chamber. The traditional imperial throne had been replaced by a circular council table, symbolizing the equality of all members in this new era. The air buzzed with anticipation. After months of intense negotiations, the new Galactic Charter was ready for signing. Screens around the chamber displayed celebrations taking place on countless worlds across the galaxy. The Empire wasn't ending. It was evolving into something greater. "Are you ready?" Ji-Hoo asked quietly, glancing at his Earth counterpart. Soo-Min nodded, her expression serene. "We've been ready for centuries. The question is, are they ready?" The chamber fell silent as the two leaders took their positions. Above them, a holographic display showed the merged symbols of Earth and the Empire, no longer two separate powers, but parts of a greater whole. Today, Ji-Hoo began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber and to billions watching across the stars. "We don't just sign a treaty. We acknowledge a truth that has existed for centuries. Humanity hasn't just been watching us. They've been guiding us, protecting us, helping us grow." Soo-Min stepped forward, her simple Earth uniform standing out among the ornate imperial dress. "We never wanted dominion," she said, her words echoing across the galaxy. "We wanted partnership, understanding, and peace. Now finally, we can stop hiding and work together openly." The first changes were already visible. Human technology was being carefully shared with imperial worlds. Not all at once. Humanity had learned the dangers of advancing too quickly, but in measured steps that allowed societies to adapt naturally. On the industrial world of New Keras, human engineers worked openly with local scientists, showing them how to clean their polluted atmosphere using technology that had once seemed like magic. On the agricultural planets of the Outer Rim, human agricultural experts revealed farming techniques that could triple food production without damaging the environment. The path forward, Soo-Min continued, is not about one civilization dominating another. It's about learning from each other. Humans may have advanced technology, but we've learned so much from watching how the Empire builds communities, how you create connections between diverse worlds. Ji-Hoo nodded, thinking of the changes he already seen. Imperial ships were being upgraded with human innovations, while human colonies were adopting imperial cultural practices. It wasn't assimilation. It was genuine integration. "The age of secrets has ended," he announced, "but the age of discovery is just beginning." As if on cue, the holographic display changed to show something that made the chamber gasp. A map of unexplored space appeared, marked with thousands of points of light. New civilizations, emerging species, worlds taking their first steps toward the stars. "These," Soo-Min explained, "are why we chose to reveal ourselves now. The galaxy is about to enter a new age. More civilizations are reaching for the stars. They will need guidance, protection, and understanding. Not from humans alone, not from the Empire alone, but from all of us working together." The signing ceremony began. One by one, representatives from every world approached the central table. Each signature added to the document transformed the ancient empire into something new, a true federation of equals. But it wasn't just a political transformation. As human peacekeepers finally revealed themselves openly, as Earth's technology began to spread in carefully measured ways, as imperial worlds opened themselves to new ideas, the entire galaxy seemed to shift. Trade routes that once required heavy military escorts became peaceful highways, protected by joint human imperial defense forces. Worlds that had been on the brink of environmental collapse found new hope through shared knowledge. Species that had been ancient enemies found common ground in this new order. Near the end of the ceremony, Soo-Min revealed one final gift. For centuries, she said, we've watched over developing civilizations. Now we invite you to join us in this sacred duty. The holographic display showed a young civilization just beginning to reach for the stars. They will need guidance, she explained. Not conquest, not control, but the same kind of gentle protection humanity has provided to you. Together, we can help them avoid the mistakes of the past. Jehu felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about signing treaties or sharing technology. It was about becoming something greater than either civilization had been alone. As the final signatures were added to the charter, the chamber erupted in applause. Outside, in the space above the capital world, ships from Earth and the Empire performed a joint display, their energy trails painting the sky with symbols of unity. The Age of Secrets has ended, Sumin announced one final time. The Age of Partnership has begun. The galaxy would never be the same. The ancient empire had transformed into something its founders could never have imagined. A true federation of equals, with humanity not as conquerors, but as partners and guides. As the celebration continued, both leaders knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, young civilizations were taking their first steps toward the stars. And this time, they would find not an empire built on fear, not a humanity hidden in shadows, but a united galaxy ready to welcome them into a new age of peace and discovery. The future had arrived, and it was brighter than anyone had dared to dream.